Charlton does have all the power.
Charlton has all the power. Hey everybody, I'm Kyle Risdell. Welcome back to Make Me Smart, where we make today make sense. Today is Friday, the 28th of June.
This was quite a week to make it through, wasn't it?
It was.
I am Kimberly Adams. Thank you for joining us on our podcast, and folks who are joining on the YouTube live stream, thanks for tuning in. It is finally, God bless, Friday, and that means it's time for our weekly happy hour episode, Economics on Tap.
All right, we will do what we usually do. We'll do some news, take a break, and then play a game. But before we get into it, we will talk drinks. Because as Kimberly said, it has been a week. Hoo boy. I'm drinking this afternoon. I'm having a Modern Times Cosmic Currents. It's a brewery out of San Diego, California. Double hazy IPA, 8.0 alcohol by volume. I wish I'd brought another one in here because it's going to be one of those days. Just saying. You?
I decided to cheer myself up by making myself a for real cocktail today, but I did it as you call it, the kitchen cocktails, with just like what I had, and I had some rosemary simple syrup left over from a previous recipe. I had some bourbon, I had some Campari, and so I have mixed them all together, and so I have made something that is red.
How does it taste?
It tastes good. It's a little more bitter than my typical drinks, but it's still tasty.
When you
I'm
I have a follow-up. When you cook, do you just kind of wing it like you do with your cocktails, or do you actually follow a recipe?
Depends on what I'm making. I don't cook all that much. And if it's something that and the things that I do cook are like a stable of things and I know how to make them, and so I wing it.
Right.
But when I bake, I follow directions exactly.
Oh yeah. Can't
And
screw around
I'm
with
a
baking.
stress
Yeah,
baker.
totally.
And so
Oh.
because it makes me feel like I can make sense of the world when I know that if I do these things, something nice and delicious comes out. And so,
That's interesting.
and during the pandemic, although it's funny, I usually don't want to eat what I bake after I bake it. I just want it away
Really?
until I give it to
But you
neighbors or something.
I was just going to say, what do you do with it? Because you live by yourself, and
I do, but I live in a building with lots of people who generally will eat cookies.
That's fair.
During the pandemic, I also went through a phase of making ramen noodles from scratch, which is basically
wow.
like chemistry, because you have to be weight scale exact with the measurements to get those noodles right. And so that was very satisfying for me also. So, but with the cocktails, it's sort of, I did 2 parts bourbon and 1 part Campari, and it was still a little bit too much Campari. So I added some more bourbon, and it was still kind of bitter. And so I just added some more simple syrup and sort of just trial and error until I get something I like.
And then I added some more bourbon, and then I put some more bourbon in there. Anyway, we will go to the
Tequila.
comments here. That's right. That's right. Let's see. Oh, Debbie Donovan says, I bet Kimberly Adams will be doing a lot of stress baking after this week's SCOTUS decisions. Cheryl Lindstrom is saving her alcoholic consumption for the concert she's going to. What's the concert, Cheryl? Let's see. Let's see. Dale Stambridge, day drinking with a Voodoo Ranger. Imperial IPA. Easy, fella. Only have 1 or 2 of those.
Steve from New Jersey is having a hibiscus flavored seltzer with bourbon.
There you
I'm
go.
on the edge of mixing flavored seltzers with various liquors, because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I've tried to mix flavored sparkling water with bourbon, and it tastes weird to me for some reason.
Where are you on the White Claws of the world?
I've never actually had a White Claw.
Oh, me
It
neither. I was
doesn't
just thinking
seem
mixing
appealing to
seltzers.
me
No,
at all.
no, same.
So I wouldn't
Hmm,
know, but I'll love to hear from other folks what they think of White Claws.
fair enough. Fair enough.
I guess there's only really one thing for us to talk about, since we kind of got all the Chevron deference stuff out of our system in your show this afternoon.
Yeah.
But man, so I watched the debate last night in a gentrifying neighborhood in DC, in Anacostia, and a bar and
Mm-hmm.
restaurant. And I watched it with our former colleague Noel King, and it was a very
Fascinating.
yes.
Fascinating. How is
And
Noelle, by the
we
way?
were
She doing all
both,
right?
she's doing great. She's doing
Good.
great.
Good. Fine. Vox Today
It was,
Explained, by the way. If you know Noelle's
yes, you
work
should
at
listen.
Marketplace, you should listen to Today Explained on Vox. She's spectacular.
Spectacular. Um, I think we spent more time observing the people around us than we did the
Uh,
actual debate because it was such an interesting mix of people. There were like some like people in Biden Harris t-shirts trying to get folks to sign petitions, and just the decline in their morale over the course of the debate. And then there were several folks, and at various points people were like putting their heads in their hands, people were like holding their throats, like the universal sign of like protecting themselves. Several times there were a couple times when just groups of people just got up and left, just shaking their heads before the debate was even over. It was a wild experience.
So I have, as I think listeners to the podcast know, I have four kids, 26, 23, 20, and 17. The 26-year-old is home. This being the way the economy works now, he can basically work from his bedroom that he grew up in if he wants to come home and spend some time with the folks. And he has been home for the last 10 days, and it's been great having him. He's going back to DC on Saturday. He and I were watching on the couch, and he was uh, uh, doing all those things that those people you just were watching described. It was just
Hmm.
unbelievable. I was texting with my 23-year-old who also lives in Washington, D.C. And he texted me as soon as Biden started. He texted me and he said, he's speaking very softly. And I texted him back and I said, he's very old. And then about 15 minutes later, I texted him one more time and I said, so what do you think? And he says, oh, I turned it off after the first question.
So, because Noel and I are both come from an audio background, at first we thought
Mm-hmm.
there was a problem with his mics. We were like, did they mic him
Mm,
wrong? Because he
mm-hmm.
sounded so muffled. And then we realized that was just him. But in terms of your son tuning out, I got data. There's this programmatic media company that I talk to sometimes, and they
Yeah.
track data about what people are watching over like streaming platforms and other kind of through like your Tubies and your Fire
Mm-hmm.
Sticks and like all these
Mm-hmm.
different smart TVs and all these different ways to track how people are watching stuff through smart TVs and over the air stuff. So I'm going to read you what they sent me this morning. MeQ tracked viewership trends for 5.97 million households who tuned into the debate last night on CNN. And the average total watch time per household was 44 minutes, and only
Hmm.
28% of viewers watched the presidential debate in its entirety.
Hmm.
48% of the audience drop off was seen in the first 15 to 30 minutes
Right,
of the
right,
debate.
right, right, right. I totally
35% of
believe
the
that.
viewers were Republican, 40% were Democrat, 24.6% were nonpartisan. And here's no surprise: the District of Columbia, South Carolina, New Jersey, Florida, and Georgia had the
Hmm.
highest viewership penetration of the debate. Obviously, DC, that's what everybody's doing.
Hmm. Yeah, no,
It
of course.
was not a good night for the Democrats. And the other thing I noticed, and I've been covering presidential elections in some way, shape, or form since the 2000 race, and more actively, probably for the last four cycles, right?
Hmm.
And one of the things that happens during a debate is you get fundraising appeals. You'll get
Hmm.
emails, and more recently, you'll get deluged with text messages. And one of the things I noticed during the debate was I got no text messages from the campaigns asking for money. You
Really?
know, yeah, I didn't get
Huh.
because usually when there's like a zinger or a
Yeah, yeah,
little
yeah, no,
quote or
totally.
something, you'll get like a ping and be like, ah, blah, blah, blah. I didn't get anything from I think I got one text from the Trump campaign last night and another one this morning. I didn't hear I got
Nothing
one
from the
message
Dems. Yeah.
from the Biden campaign, and it was the most generic boilerplate thing. And then this morning, no, not even this morning, like mid morning, towards the afternoon, it was basically the same boilerplate message. Like, I've never seen so
Yeah.
much malarkey, but with almost no
Oh
other
God.
language. And you could tell they were scrambling with how to message
Trying to
this
figure out
thing.
what to say. Yes,
They were trying to
exactly.
figure out what to say. So Biden had a rally this afternoon, and they basically
Yep.
took that language to use. And I want to read you a little bit about what they finally sent at 3:12 this afternoon in a fundraising
Mm-hmm.
text. Hey folks, it's Joe. Last night I spent 90 minutes debating on a stage with a guy who has all the morals of an alley cat. I know
Yeah.
I'm not a young man. I don't walk as easily as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. I also know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Please give me money. This is their angles to try and own it.
Right. Right. Well, but yes, I agree. They are now belatedly trying to own it.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, what they should have done was whatever the first question was last night from Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, Biden's first line should have been whatever the short answer to that question is for 15 seconds, and then what he said today, right? And that would have disarmed
Mm-hmm.
the whole bleeping thing. Because now they have an enormous problem, and these conversations are happening, and momentum is real. And let me just say here, for the record, I am on the record as saying Donald Trump is a threat to the Republic, and Joe Biden is too old to campaign for this job. I'm not saying he's too old to do it, he's too old to campaign for it, which is a different thing. But the Democrats now are in a world of hurt, right? And
So what
he
I
did have
think,
he sorry,
no, go ahead.
one very quick last thing. He had this rally today that you mentioned in North Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
and he got up on stage, and it was like a different guy. He was relaxed. He was present. I think this is pure subjective supposition. I think he had a little bronzer on because he looked tanned and fit and rested. His suit fit perfectly. He had no tie. It was open a little bit. He looked great, and he gave an incredibly energetic speech. And what's going to happen now, I think, is the conversations that started last night after that debate, which on a scale of 0 to 100, Biden scored a 0 on, right? The
Mm-hmm.
conversations that started, I think, are going to be slowed a little bit, and everybody's going to go, "Oh, okay, here's Joe, he's back," and that's going to be really
Mm.
challenging for the Democrats. I don't know.
So one of the key differences then versus last night is
Hmm.
teleprompters. And
Oh, totally, 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 absolutely, sure. But wait,
and
sorry, he for sure could have memorized a 20-second. I'm not a young man. I don't debate as well. I speak less clearly, but I know right from wrong. I mean, come on.
there are a lot of things that could have been done differently, but what I think is going to be the most interesting is after the weekend when we're out of the first 24-hour media cycle
Hmm. Hmm.
and
Hmm.
the talking heads have kind of dialed back, and what's going to happen and what's probably already happening is the Dems are going to be going to their top donors because those voices are going to matter a lot.
Because they're scared
And
bleepless. Yeah.
and what it's going to be very interesting to hear the kind of conversations they have with the down ballot folks, the governors,
Uh-huh.
the members of the House and the Senate who are in difficult races, who are really going to be, there's going to be some kind of polling in swing states
Yep.
and in these tight races to see how bad this was for those races. How much of a liability does Biden become for the governors, for the state houses, and for the House and the Senate? Because that's, I think, where you're really going to see the establishment willing
Hmm.
to push him harder if it looks like he becomes a liability. Just like in the midterms, a lot of people, despite not wanting to speak publicly about Trump on the Republican side, they did not want to campaign with him. And they were very glad that he was not
Yep.
sharing a ballot with them on the midterms because they felt like Trump was a liability. And that was also a concern a little bit in 2020, but more so in the midterms. And if Biden becomes a liability for some of those people in the risky seats, then I think this conversation
Hmm.
is going to get more intense. But I think we'll learn more about that after the weekend.
Totally agree. One more quick thought for me. It's so for let's see, when was 2015? 9 years ago. For 9 years, Never Trumpers and some of the Democratic Party have been saying to Republicans who support Trump, open your eyes. How do you deny what you see that he is completely unfit? And it's really challenging now for Democrats to say, ooh, you didn't see what you saw last night. You know, there's a logical
Hmm.
inconsistency that becomes for the Democrats, I think, a problem. I don't know.
You know, what I was thinking about last night is, for all we know, Biden could have been up the previous evening working through some sort of top secret classified national security matter, you know, and that, could be one of the reasons. Like, not trying to make excuses or anything like that, but there's so much we don't know about what happens behind the scenes in these situations. But that's part of the job. Someone mentioned in the chat, why isn't Kamala a part of this conversation? I think she is a part of this conversation. She went on CNN after
Hmm.
that debate and made the points better than either of the folks on stage, and
Totally.
Anderson Cooper said so.
Yep.
And
And he
when
squeezed
she,
her a little bit too. He pushed her,
quite a
right? I
bit,
mean, he was like, "Come
yeah,
on, man. We saw what we saw."
the logistics of trying to switch gears at this
Yeah.
point are going
Oh,
to
forget it,
be
right? Yep.
what? Well, I don't think it's a forget it. I think there are serious people having serious conversations about what it would take to switch gears at this point. And is it possible? Yes. Would it be extraordinarily challenging, litigated, and make a lot of people angry?
Hmm.
Absolutely. But this is not a conversation that we were having 2 days ago.
2 days. Yeah,
And
totally.
it reminded me of, you and I, we've had a couple of rounds of discussion about the value of debates. And I think
Yeah.
it's hard to say
Well,
this was not a valuable debate.
no, I'd agree, but I totally agree. And you're absolutely right. And we can talk about debates another time. But
Mhm.
this was a terrible. It was a terrible debate. Terrible debate. Sorry. One guy was lying his ass off, right? And
Mhm.
the other guy didn't have it in him to be quick enough to counter.
Mm-mm.
It was a terrible debate.
Because this is what we talked about the other day, that it was going to be on Biden to fact check him,
Yes,
to call out
yes,
his
yes.
lies, and to do that, which he was not able to do
He
in
was
that
not
moment.
capable of doing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally. All right.
Oh boy.
Yes.
I'm sure
Yes.
that everybody in the audience is over
Well,
hearing about this debate. But what I will
you know,
say,
there's lots going on in the chat. I'm just saying, people. I don't think
oh,
people are
what's going
angry
on in the
actually.
chat?
Well, there's just
Yeah.
lots of comments and lots of like 3 or 4 line comments as opposed to the one or two. So I mean, this is a big deal. It's a very big deal.
It's a huge deal. And I would just really encourage folks to avoid the temptation to check out, because
Yes. Yep.
this is particularly the moment when, regardless of what party you're in or which side of this you're on, the people in power making the decisions about what happens next are paying very close attention to what regular folks are saying and thinking and doing. They're going to pay very close attention to how well they're able to fundraise off of these messages about him not being as young as he used to be. They're going to pay very close attention to what happens at, the rallies and what kind of energy is there. They're going to pay very close attention to social media conversations. And so, if this is something that you care about, this is the time to share your thoughts with the people you know, or your representatives, or your members of Congress, or whatever, in terms of what you think should happen next. Because this is when people are
I
paying the closest attention.
totally. I would just like to say before we move on, you and I each have one vote for president. Jamie Geary texts President Rizdal. So that's one. And Susanna Romig says, I would vote for Kimberly Adams. So there you go.
Ah, thanks. I
There you
would
go. All
not
right.
want that job. Not in the
Yeah,
tiniest
if
bit.
elected, I will not serve. That's it for the news,
Will not.
such as it was. We are going to take a quick break and then half full, half empty. You guys know the drill. We'll be right back.
Maybe we need to change the poll to see which one of us would win for
Oh
president.
my God, right? Oh Oh no, don't do that. Oh no, I don't
Oh
think you mean
no,
that.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said it out loud. Okay, we are back. Time to play half full, half empty. I vote for our special
I
guest host
vote
today,
against it.
Marketplace Tech producer
Yes.
Daniel Shin. I vote yes.
Hello.
Go, Daniel. Hey.
Right.
Hello.
Starting with number one, this week Nova Safo on Marketplace Morning Report explored how some states are trying to lure sports franchises to their state by building new, shiny sports stadiums, which are almost always funded by taxpayer dollars. Are you half full or half empty on taxpayers footing bills for new sports stadiums?
I could
All
not
the
possibly be more empty.
damn way empty. Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Just stop it.
I am
Just
going to
ugh.
reopen the wound of the Rams and
Mm-hmm.
that whole drama.
Yep. Yep.
Like St. Louis,
Where
where I am
used to
originally
be
from, in
St.
case
Louis
anybody
Rams.
missed it, is a very big sports town. And we support like all of the teams with energy. Like I cannot tell you the number of like sports team themed birthday parties and graduation parties I have been to in my life. Like we care. And the Rams got so much money to come to the city. They got a new stadium. They were going to get even more stuff and ran away for more money. All the way empty on this stuff. And I hope you're enjoying them where you have them. Because good riddance.
I am, in fact, and their new stadium is very nice. But look, here's the deal. All those stadiums never work out economically for the town or the city that spends taxpayer money in the form of credits or actual expenditures to build them. It just the dynamics and the economics don't work. So
And yet it
it's
keeps happening.
and yet it keeps
And yet
happening
it keeps
because
happening.
I know, and it's bananas.
Because money
Totally
and
agree.
interest make it happen. Okay,
Yep.
sorry, we're going to get
All the way
ourselves
empty.
real upset about this.
Next.
Next, Google removed its continuous scroll feature on search. That's basically where you get endless results without having to click through to a next page. They did say that this was done to deliver faster results, but are you half full or half empty on Google ending continuous scroll?
I'm half empty because I enjoy the continuous scroll. It saves me another click in a world of clicks. Also, there's got to be some mechanism here by which it turns out to be remuneratively positive for Google. They're not just doing it for the hell of it. I don't know what it is. Megan Riccardi-Carino did the story for us actually on the show. I'm half empty. I think it's bogus.
I'm going to say half full because I think there may be some environmental consequences here
Oh, is
as
that what it is?
well.
All right. Okay. I'll buy that.
I'm just assuming because if it makes it load faster, that means it's taking up less computing time. If it's taking up less computing time, it's running those servers less, and that is it's a teeny tiny discount of energy in the individual sense, but
Right.
scaled over Google, I have to imagine that makes a good environmental
over
impact. I've been seeing a lot of comments on social media where people are like, oh, everyone's saying, don't turn your AC up past 79 in a heat wave, but, it's fine to have Chat GPT create like Shrimp Jesus and use up all of the electricity.
Right. Totally.
So I'll say half full.
Fair enough. All right. Daniel?
All right. Yep. Next headline. Unfortunately, the website mtvnews.com appears to have gone down after MTV seems fully pulled down the site, and it's nearly 20 years of content there. Are you half full or half empty on
You didn't have to add that last bit,
mtvnews.com?
Daniel. That was unnecessary.
What, the 20 years part?
We're
Yes,
not
that
that
was not
far
kind.
apart in age, Kimberly. I remember those days too.
Shut up, the both of you. Shut up, the both of you. Anywho, I'm half empty just on principle, and all y'all can go to hell. That's all I'm saying. Oh my God.
I'll go in half empty in solidarity with Gen X.
Jesus Christ.
All right.
Moving on.
Moving on. Next headline. 4th of July, right around the corner. Transportation Security Administration say they expect record-breaking numbers of flyers today and next July 3rd. Are you half full or half empty on traveling around for the 4th of July holiday?
Empty because I have to be on a plane on Sunday.
Do you?
I do. I'm coming your way. I'm going out to
Oh, you're coming
LA.
in. I was just going to say business or pleasure, and then I remembered you're coming here. Yeah, I mean, look, airfares are down a little tiny bit since 2023, which probably explains part of it, but airlines also just need to put more flights on because planes are really crowded, man. You know?
Well, let's remember the state of plane manufacturing in the
I know.
world right
Oh,
now.
yeah, well, yeah,
So,
no, totally. Not just Boeing, but Airbus as well. Yeah, no, totally.
yeah,
Totally.
exactly. Exactly. All right, we got to get out of here
Yeah.
because Kai's starting to
All right.
sweat.
I am. Can you tell? I'm a little like red
Yes.
and whatever. It's like 1,000 degrees. I would open the door, but people are outside and it would be loud. Anyway, so we're coming up to the poll.
Let's
Daniel,
jump
hit
to the
it.
poll.
All right. This comes from National Geographic discussing how 4th of July drone shows are actually becoming more popular over
That's so
traditional
interesting.
fireworks shows, where you have
That's so
full or half
interesting.
empty on July 4th drone light shows.
All right, let me tell you a little story. So my
Hmm.
oldest son, who, as I've said before, is home, uh, is a huge Dodgers fan. So we went last Friday to the Dodgers game. And on Fridays at Dodger Stadium, they used to do a big fireworks thing, but now it has become a drone light show. And like at the fifth inning, and this is like now, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And remember, I get up at 4 o'clock in the damn morning, right? Sorry, I'm getting us an E, and I apologize for swearing, right? But my wife, so it's me and my wife and my oldest son, because all the other kids have bailed. They've come in a separate car and they're leaving. So it's the three of us, and my wife says, "Oh," and the thing flashes on the scoreboard that says drone light show after the ninth inning. And our experience when the kids were little, we used to take them to Dodger games, and it used to be fireworks, and it would take like 45 minutes after the last out to get the fireworks show going. And so by the time the fireworks show started, and this is before the new pitch clock and all that jazz in Major League Baseball, it was like 10:30, quarter 11 at night. And I'm like, number one, the kids are little. Number two, I've been up since bleep freaking
Mm,
crack bleep of dawn, and I'm tired and I want to go home. Anyway,
mm.
so sorry, this is more than you need to know about my family dynamic. But my wife leans over and says, I'd really like to see the drone light show. And I kind of look at her and I'm like, okay, honey. So we stay for the
I love
drone
you,
light show. I
sweetheart.
mean, as one does, right? Because there's
Yes.
no alternative
No.
response. So we
No, there
stay for the
isn't.
drone light show. And while interesting in a mechanical kind of way, it was really underwhelming. I mean, there were a couple hundred drones and they made these formations. And since it's at the West Coast in Santa Monica and blah, 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 they had like a surfer guy on a surfboard with drone lights. And then they had a skyline of Los Angeles. And after about 5 minutes, my wife was like, okay, I'm done. We can go. So that lets you know how I feel about it.
So I have two drone stories to share very quickly. First of
Okay.
all, I don't know if you remember after Biden, was it after he got the nomination or after he won that
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
did a
yeah.
drone
Yeah, there was that
show?
thing. Yep, yep,
They did a
yep.
drone show. I think for that kind of stuff and for weddings and for baseball games, like it's actually a good thing when it's something that's happening relatively often and you can like not waste so much stuff and make a lot of noise. Like I live near a place where sometimes people who have a lot of money to spend on their weddings set off fireworks,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, great, yay. But I like the sustainability component of it. Also, I was very entertained by a video I saw, and I'll have to look it up online and share it in the show notes, where somewhere in Texas, somebody like did this drone show and they created a QR code in the sky
Oh, that's great. That's
with
great.
their drones. And anybody who put the QR code and into their phone, like they held up their phone to get the
Yeah.
QR
What'd you get?
code, you got rickrolled.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, that's kind of great, right?
Which I
That's kind of
thought
great.
was
Kind of classic.
amazing.
Kind of
So
classic. Oh my
4th of
God.
July, look, I live in Washington, D.C. I happen to live in a place that has a great view of the fireworks in the National Mall. I love it.
Yeah.
I want to keep it. So I'm going to say half empty on the drone shows for 4th of July, but half full more broadly for drone shows. And I think, let's see, what does the poll say? 80%, half full. I feel like we've got a good like sustainability crowd in here. Half empty,
Good for them.
19%, 173 votes.
Good for them. Good stuff. All right, that is it for us on this Friday at the midpoint of the year. Back on Monday. In the meanwhile, you know how to get a hold of us, 508-UB-SMART, UB-SMART. Email us if you like, makemesmart@marketplace.org.
Make Me Smart is produced by Courtney Berg-Seeker. Today's episode was engineered by our own firecracker, Charlton Thorpe.
Oh my God. If only people knew Charlton Thorpe. Anyway, Emily McCune, Jamila Huxtable, and Antoinette Brock do our Friday game. Marissa Cabrera is the senior producer of this podcast. Bridget Bodner is in charge of podcasts here at Marketplace. Francesca Levy is in charge of everything else in digital and on, demand.
Yeah, there was a tiny bit of
I got
music
it.
left. You got
I
it.
got
You
it.
got
There was a little something.
You're pro.
Timing is
You're
everything.
pro.